Robert Willemstad, the group's recently deposed CEO, is believed to have been named in the suit as well as with the other company directors. The latest shareholder suit follows a class action filed in the Southern District of New York in May on behalf of the Jacksonville Police and Fire Pension Fund. Finally, in Tokyo this morning, the government came out with an economic forecast that actually eliminated the word recovery from its description of the world economy. This is for the first time in 6 years that recovery is absent in the report. The government stuck to its somber core assessment on Asia's largest economy, saying it is weakening. The government also said that the escalating U.S. financial crisis would undoubtedly exacerbate Japan's downturn by lifting the yen, thus hurting Tokyo stocks, further damaging Japan's already slowing export. The latest Japanese report shows how pessimistic policymakers have become in Japan, which heavily depends on exports for growth. As demand abates overseas for Japanese goods, Japan's economy contracts. It contracted at an annualized rate of 3% in the April to June quarter. This is its worst performance in almost 7 years. Many economists expect sluggish, if not negative, growth in the current quarter as well. The language on the world economy was grimmer than the previous months, and the word recovery in the assessment, even as a possible goal to be attained, was nowhere to be found for the first time since June of 2002. We'll break now for a word from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news.
Every day, the world wakes up and goes to work, pursuing the unique opportunities that lead the global economy forward. The complexity and close connectivity of today's global marketplace is a true modern miracle that can create unparalleled success. But it takes confidence, passion, innovation, and understanding.
Enabling opportunity.
Protecting capital.
Engineering innovation. Investing in your future.
Ensuring continuity.
Finding the right balance.
It takes Aon.
From prehistoric time to today, man's progress has been marked by his ability to fashion tools and use them to his advantage. From early humans making tools from stone, man evolved and was soon trading with other men. Money evolved, and tools such as the abacus to handle complex money transactions were developed. By the end of the 19th century, machines, such as the cash register, began to appear. 100 years later, we have even better computer-driven machines which track stock, change prices, and automatically reorder. Meanwhile, the reinsurance industry has failed to embrace man's drive for progress. The reinsurance industry today would be as familiar to practitioners from the 1800s as it is to modern underwriters. An underwriter or broker from 1800 would settle nicely into today's business. That is, until now. For the reinsurance industry, pivot point changes everything. Soon it will be understood that the period before pivot point was as dark as the caveman period was before the abacus. Come and see for yourself if you don't believe. After a demonstration, you will understand what is possible.
Here's something that's sneaking up on us. I didn't know this until I saw it either. The National Flood Insurance Program in the United States is going to expire in less than 2 weeks. In response to this, a top congressman, a top Democrat, yesterday, Barney Frank of Massachusetts, proposed a 7-month extension of the federal flood insurance program. He acknowledged that the House and Senate have been unable to negotiate a long-term extension of the program. He said, "I'm disappointed that a permanent solution is not before us, but we should extend the program while we work on the final bill." Frank is the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, so his words will have some weight. The House and Senate have already passed separate bills reauthorizing the National Flood Insurance Program for 5 years, but have been unable to broker a compromise. Here's the deal. The two bills contain a number of differences, including a House-endorsed provision in their bill that would expand the program to include coverage for wind damage. The Senate, which of course is have perhaps some influence from a large portion of the property and casualty industry. Their version continues to exclude wind damage. So they do have some things to work out. In India this morning, Indian police in the capital of New Delhi are battling suspected Islamic militants who are holed up in a house right in the city. They've killed 2 and they've arrested 1 before others escaped. They're now hunting for them. The gun battle in the southern part of sprawling New Delhi put the city back on edge a week after the bombings that killed 21 people. A senior police officer said that the scene of Friday's firefight was in the Jamia Nagar neighborhood and that there were 5 gunmen involved. Soon after the battle broke out around noon Indian time Friday, scores of police officers in riot gear could be seen fanning out through the neighborhood, which is a leafy, lower middle-class neighborhood. The scene was chaotic, with authorities trying to get civilians out of harm's way while attempting to subdue the militants. We always put these stories in. Police say a bomb in Germany from World War II has exploded after it was dug up during building work in the western part of the country. 15 people suffered light injuries. The 550-pound bomb detonated after being unearthed this morning by a mechanical digger in the town of Hattingen. Hattingen is up in the Ruhr. Police say that the machine's operator suffered some light cuts. The explosion did shatter windows in 2 nearby industrial buildings. And I think the final tally is now in on Gulf offshore oil platforms from Ike. At least 49 of them, each fortunately with a production of less than 1,000 barrels a day, were destroyed by Ike. According to the Department of the Interior, it said the latest damage assessment comes together. It said the latest hurricane damage assessment that the platforms altogether accounted for only 13,000 barrels of oil and 84 million cubic feet of natural gas a day. There are, however, more than 3,800 production platforms in the Gulf, and most of them do remain shut down. Hanover Re, speaking of Ike, expects net damage claims of less than about 200 million euros, which would be 290 million US from Ike. This is according to the announcement this morning from the world's 4th largest reinsurer. Nonetheless, Hanover said it expects to remain within its full-year natural catastrophe budget of 10% of total net premiums that it collects from customers. The total of Ike, apparently, from a number of modeling agencies, will come in at about $8 billion to $18 billion. That's a pretty wide range, but it's much less than what was thought a week ago today. One area that's not going to be receiving any reinsurance money is the island of Cuba. Cuban agricultural officials said last night they expect a 6-month food crisis after Ike and Gustav knocked out about 30% of the island's crops. Cuba spends up to about $2 billion US annually on food imports, and that's going to have to increase. The country is struggling to increase its historically paltry domestic food production anyway. According to the agricultural minister, Alcides Lopez, we have a hard 6 months to go, but he said no Cuban will die of hunger. Thousands of acres of crops were destroyed earlier this month when Ike and Gustav struck the island. The Japanese newspaper Nikkei Business Daily is saying in Tokyo this morning that GM is in talks to sell its mid-sized truck operation to Isuzu. However, Isuzu said that it has received no such offer. Shares in Isuzu, which in fact is a former GM affiliate, extended gains up to about 11% after the report. General Motors was expected to sell its mid-sized truck operations, which constitutes most of its truck business, for several tens of billions of yen, and Isuzu told the U.S. automaker it would consider an offer positively. Of course, they say they haven't received it yet. It was unclear whether GM would sell all of its operations or retain a plant in Michigan. However, the Isuzu spokesperson said that GM has not contacted the company about such a deal, although, quote, we would begin to study an offer if we received one. If GM were to sell its truck operations to Isuzu, it would be an ironic turn of events, as GM has in the past owned up to 49% of the company. GM, of course, has lost more than $51 billion in the past 3 years. And finally, this is one of those stories where you have to give credit where it's due. This man has historically been a modern-day Jeremiah sometimes. He was certainly one of the few people who remained